Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at how India is tackling cybercrime.
Yeah.
In the digital age, we've got some pretty fascinating source material to work with today.
Yes.
Excerpts from India's Information Technology Act
Okay.
and their new legal framework, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita.
That's
And
big.
what's really got me intrigued is how India is dealing with this whole concept of property,
Yeah.
in the digital age. Think about it, like all your data, your online identity. I mean, that's becoming just as valuable as any physical possessions.
It really is. It's fascinating how India is building on a foundation that they've been working on for over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Their journey actually began back in 2000 with the Information Technology Act.
Okay.
We call it the IT Act for short.
Okay.
And that act has really been their guidebook for everything cyber.
Oh, so like their cybercrime playbook.
You could say that, yeah.
And I guess like any good playbook, it's had to adapt to the changing game.
Exactly. They had to in 2008 when identity theft and cyber terrorism were
Yeah.
becoming big threats.
Right.
India, they went ahead and they added brand new sections to the IT Act
Mm-hmm.
specifically to address these challenges.
All right.
And then fast forward to 2018, data protection became a huge global concern.
Yeah.
And India was right there again,
Right.
updating the IT Act to deal with all that sensitive personal data.
Yeah. So I guess it's not just about catching cyber criminals, but it's also about setting some ground rules for how businesses should operate in
Exactly.
this whole digital space. It's interesting, though, there was one part of the IT Act,
Yep.
Section 66A,
Yep.
that got a ton of attention
It did.
and ended up being struck down. What was that all about?
Well, so Section 66A, it was meant to punish offensive online messages.
Okay.
So think hate speech or inflammatory content, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then in 2015, the Supreme Court of India, they found it to be way too broad
Wow.
and a potential threat to, freedom of speech.
That's a big deal. Did it spark a whole debate about where to draw the line between, protecting people online and
Really?
upholding their freedom of expression?
Huge debate, yeah.
Yeah.
Some people arguing that, they needed stricter rules and regulations to stop online harassment.
Right.
And others, they emphasize, free speech. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And so this whole tension between security and liberty,
Right.
that's a key thing we see all over the world with cyber law.
Okay, so India's right there in the thick of it. So where does this new Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, the BNS,
Okay.
fit into all of this?
So the BNS, it's a huge, huge overhaul
Okay.
of their entire criminal justice system.
Wow.
And while it isn't solely focused on cybercrime, it does have some broader definitions of offenses
Okay.
that could have a huge impact on how cybercrime is actually handled.
So it's not just about tweaking existing laws, it's rethinking this whole framework
Exactly.
for dealing with crime in this digital age.
Exactly. Take, for example, stealing valuable virtual items from someone's online gaming account. Under the BNS, that kind of virtual theft might be treated the same way as stealing someone's physical property.
That's huge.
That's a big potential shift in
Yeah.
how we view and value
Absolutely.
virtual assets.
It really raises so many questions. I mean, how do we even begin to put like a real world value on these virtual items?
Yeah.
What does this mean for the gaming industry?
You're hitting the nail on the head. Those are the key challenges right now. How do we create laws that acknowledge the real value
Yeah.
that people put on their digital possessions, but also make sure those laws are fair and enforceable?
Right.
The BNS is really pushing us to rethink the traditional legal boundaries.
So it sounds like India's really trying to get ahead of the curve here,
They are.
but won't having both the IT Act and this new BNS just lead to a ton of confusion?
Yeah, it could.
I mean, how do they work together?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
And it's one that legal experts in India are actually trying to figure out right now.
Yeah,
There's a real risk of these laws clashing or overlapping.
absolutely.
So figuring out how they work together practically,
Yeah.
that's going to be key.
So it's not just about creating new laws, it's about making sure they actually fit together.
Precisely.
It's like having two sets of rules for the same game.
Exactly. And figuring out how to referee that game, that's going to be critical.
That's going to be really important.
Yeah.
So it sounds like India is really laying down a comprehensive framework.
Yeah.
What else does the BNS bring to the table when it comes to, actually tackling cybercrime?
So one really interesting thing is its focus on digital evidence.
Okay.
It lays out these really clear rules on how to collect, preserve, and actually use digital evidence in court.
So it's like giving investigators like a much-needed upgrade to their toolkit.
Yeah.
Instead of just, relying on physical evidence, they can now use these digital footprints to actually build a case.
Exactly. And that's really important because cybercrime, it often leaves behind a digital trail, not a physical one.
Right.
So think about, IP addresses, browsing history emails. All of that can be super crucial in an investigation.
Yeah.
And the BNS is really making sure that this evidence is handled correctly.
Right.
So that it can be used to bring these criminals to justice.
So this must be a pretty big deal for law enforcement over in India.
Absolutely.
Does this mean that, they're going to need special training to handle digital evidence properly?
Oh, for sure. You need specialized skills and knowledge to gather and analyze digital evidence without contaminating it.
Right.
The BNS actually acknowledges that, and it pushes for better training and resources for all the law enforcement agencies. It's about recognizing that digital evidence is fragile and needs to be handled with care.
So we've talked about the IT Act and the BNS, but these aren't the only pieces of the puzzle, are they?
You're right. It's not just about these two acts. India has a whole bunch of laws that can come into play.
Right.
Depending what kind of cybercrime it is.
Okay.
For example, the Indian Penal Code that deals with things like fraud and cheating,
Right.
which also happen online.
Of course.
Then there are laws specifically about, intellectual property, online payments, and data protection.
So it's a much more intricate web than we initially imagined.
It really is.
It's not just about having, one cybercrime law.
Right.
It's about understanding how all these different laws work together.
Yeah.
And apply to this digital world.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so tricky for legal professionals and for you, just navigating the online world.
Absolutely.
You need to know about all these different legal layers when you're online doing business or even just sharing information.
So what's the key takeaway here for our listener?
Well, it's pretty simple.
Okay.
India is at the forefront of a global trend as our lives, become more and more digital.
Right.
The laws governing cyberspace are becoming just as important as the laws governing our physical world.
Yeah.
This isn't just an Indian thing. This is global.
So it's like a whole new legal frontier is opening up.
Exactly.
Right in front of us.
And what happens in India could have ripple effects all around the world.
Wow.
Their effort to figure out these complex issues, to balance security with individual rights, to establish clear rules for digital evidence. Those are valuable lessons for everybody.
So by understanding what India is doing, we can kind of get a glimpse into the future of law in this digital age.
Exactly. It's about understanding how these laws are changing and what that means for all of us as citizens of this crazy interconnected world.
This deep dive is really making me think about my own online behavior and the potential legal stuff.
And that's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's about making sure we're all informed and aware of the rules of the game in this crazy digital world.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about how much of our lives have moved online. We're banking, shopping, socializing, even working remotely.
Yeah.
All through these digital platforms.
It's true.
And I guess with all of that comes a whole new set of vulnerabilities.
It is. It's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it? The same technologies that connect us and offer so many opportunities also create new ways for crime and exploitation.
So where do we go from here? I mean, what can we do as individuals to protect ourselves in this complex digital world?
I think the first step is awareness.
Okay.
We need to understand the risks and how our actions might make us vulnerable.
Right.
So think about things like strong passwords.
Okay.
Being careful about phishing scams. And being cautious about the info we share online.
So it's like building a digital fortress around ourselves.
Exactly.
But even the strongest fortress needs constant vigilance.
Oh, absolutely. Cybersecurity is an ongoing process. It's about staying up to date on the latest threats.
Right.
Updating our software. And just having good digital hygiene.
Okay. So it's not just about relying on laws and governments to protect us.
Right.
It's about taking personal responsibility for our digital security.
Exactly.
What about businesses, though?
Yeah.
What's their role in all of this?
Businesses have a big responsibility.
Yeah.
Especially the ones handling all our sensitive data.
Yeah.
They need to have strong security.
Okay.
Comply with data protection rules.
Right.
And be upfront with users about how their data is used and protected.
So it sounds like we all have a role to play in making a safer digital world.
Yeah.
But with technology changing so fast,
That's true.
how can we keep up?
That's the challenge, isn't it? We're always trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
The key is to stay curious and informed about what's new in cybersecurity
Okay.
and to change our behavior when we need to.
So we're all lifelong learners in this digital age.
We are.
Well, this deep dive has given me so much to think about.
Good.
I have a much better understanding of, the challenges and opportunities. Yeah.
In this ever-changing digital world. Thanks for guiding us through it all.
It was my pleasure. Remember, knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
The more we know about the laws and tech that shape our digital lives,
Yeah.
the better prepared we'll be to handle this new world safely and responsibly.
So to all our listeners out there, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe in the digital world. Until next time, happy exploring to